And today's project, we've got this chalk GT2RS that we are going to do the stage 3 plus on. So we've got the BMC air filter, carbon air filter. We've got the IPD plenum and Y pipe. We've got the Champion Motorsports bypass valves and the CSF intercoolers. And then we're going to be doing a Pro Tune by Sam, or from Sam. I do this every time, from Sam at By Design. So the car already has custom Rift exhaust on it at this point in time. So we're just going to be running off of that. So we're going to start tearing it down. We can see the GT2RS with the bumper removed 3 minutes later. I find this comical. Porsche does this all the time. So this is behind the bumper. Nobody's ever going to see this except for like the technicians. And they still put Porsche on everything. They put it on the intake manifolds. They put it on the intake boxes, the air boxes, which I love Porsche. It's awesome for sure. I just like how they just like randomly hide it in places where most of your people are never ever going to see it. So, and then you can see here the Y pipe, the factory Y pipe. On this, it's even special. It says GT2RS. These do have a tendency to, or will, we've seen they blow apart right here where the plastic is just basically melted together. It'll literally blow this chunk off of that pipe. One of the areas that the IPD Y pipe is a huge advantage. With the airbox stripped off, the Y pipe out, throttle body off. We can see where we're going to put our center section here, the IPD center section. The factory one is this plastic unit. So we're going to go in there with the aluminum piece. It's going to hold up way better, give us some power. A little fun fact, see here on your standard 991, 992s, that would have sound deadening, but being a GT car, there is no engine pad there. That's one of the places they cut weight. So, and give you the sound you want to hear. All right, I don't think much has to be said here. You can see the difference between the factory GT2RS center section and the IPD plenum, or not, yes, center section. So, obviously, we have a substantially sturdier unit here versus the plastic, and then size, so we can get all that boost in there. So as an installer, one of the things that I really appreciate about the IPD units, you can see even though it's a substantially larger unit, it still fits the way it's supposed to fit in here. The only thing you have to do is tweak this bar that goes across the top that pulls the two intake manifolds together. All you got to do is just bend that slightly over the top of it, and everything still lines up. Everything still does what it's supposed to do. I have had cars come in that had this installed by somebody else, and that bar was missing. I highly recommend not doing that. It only takes just a little bit. I just kind of push it over the top of the plenum, and it tweaks it just enough that everything fits in place. So if you do this install, it's highly advised to keep that bar in place. The only other thing that I do to make everything fit, I pop the tank vent valve. It's got a holder over here. If you just pop it up off that holder, it gives you enough slack in the hoses that you can fit everything in place. That's the only other thing that you have to change to make this whole unit fit in there. So, having just the single piece versus the multiple crimps and plastic pieces and plastic welds, obviously there's a lot of room for failure here, where there's not any room for failure here, which is a big plus when you're going to track anything. Obviously we want to eliminate any point of failure, so just that alone is worth it. And then you also get the increased volume, the dimpling on the inside. Oh, there's no negatives, nothing but positives. And then for anybody that's never seen a GT2RS air filter, it's one of the strangest factory pieces I've ever seen. So I looked this up. This company, this UFI multi-tube, they actually designed this. That's not the company, but that's what it's called. but I looked this up, and this was actually designed to maximize horsepower in hybrid vehicle applications. But I guess they did so good that Porsche tested it on their highest horsepower car at the time and said that this was the air filter to use. So these have terrific flow. They're crazy. They're crazy looking. I've never seen anything like it. But we are going to switch over to the BMC carbon fiber race filter. This is actual true carbon fiber. BMC is the manufacturer and distributor for all of Porsche's GT3 or GT, most of the GT and all the RS cars that have the high flow filters. They are BMC units, so you know it's a terrific product. All right, we can see our CSF core here. CSF versus the factory unit, which I've discussed previously. They look like they're the same width, but they're not, because this actually, the fins run almost all the way to the outside here, where on this one they're not. This housing. Now you can see the GT2 already has metal end tanks, already has aluminum end tanks on it. So the aluminum end tank on these is already an upgrade over all the other cars, even the Turbo and the Turbo S. It is still crimped though versus welded. I don't have a one-to-one comparison, but the 992, you can see this is a 992 Turbo S intercooler, and see how they have a plastic end tank on those, and they're crimped. So obviously, like we discussed earlier, there is much more room for failure here with the plastic end tank versus the aluminum, and then the crimp versus the weld. And for anybody that wants to see the inner workings of the GT2RS, so we can see here, this is our intercooler spraying system. So it connects to a hose coming off the car to a tank in the front with the distilled water. You need to always have distilled water in that system. And then we can see on the inside here, here's our jets to spray the intercooler down so that the heat dissipates. You know, it evaporates the water and that pulls the heat away. You can also see that the housing, the cage, or the housing, the air guide on the GT2RS is made out of carbon fiber versus plastic on all the other cars. Another little Easter egg on the GT2RS, this is the turbo inlet. They say GT2RS on them, even though nobody's ever going to see that. I'm assuming maybe it's for production purposes, but it still looks cool, and I think it's pretty awesome. All right, we can see our IPD plenum, Y-pipe, and plenum we got installed. Obviously, we have to have the mandatory clear side markers. I can't work on any of your cars if we do not install clear side markers. Stage 3 is complete. We will wait on the customer to post some videos and do some data logging, and we'll go from there. I think we may do some upgraded turbos on this one, so can't wait. Left lane is for high-speed traffic and passing home.